Welcome to Action Cousins Podcast. We are your source for all pop culture and video game needs. We do reviews, discussions. Hopefully, eventually, we'll get group discussions together. But as of right now, we just have the host. Our first host is
Drewid.
And then your other host is Breck. We are here, and we are hopefully going to give you guys, this is our first episode, give you guys some good content. Today is going to be our pop culture show. We're going to have 2 shows a month. We're going to hopefully figure out the release schedule, but for right now, our first one is going to be about pop culture, so that's going to include your comic books, that's going to include your TV shows, your movies, your manga, your anime, hell, even other fellow podcasters. So we're just going to kind of get right into it. We're going to start our first segment off. It's just going to be news and notes from around kind of just pop culture that kind of caught our eye. The first thing that we wanted to kind of discuss is there was an Ant-Man and Wasp trailer, which if you don't know, that is the sequel to the 2015 Disney Marvel Ant-Man movie starring Paul Rudd. Just kind of, Drew, let's get some first takes on it. How did you think about it?
So yeah, it looked really cool. I definitely liked the first movie, so I'm pretty excited for this one. The trailer was pretty awesome, had some cool set pieces, set a pretty cool tone. Definitely don't really know what's going on yet, which I like in a trailer. So pretty excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree on that on all fronts. I'll be honest with you. I honestly thought Ant-Man might be the first one of the Marvel movies to truly be a flop. Especially after they lost Edgar Wright, their director, and they went to their second one, which right now I'm spacing his name. But I honestly thought that might be the first one, especially taking, even though he was a founding Avenger and all that, but just kind of an obscure character like Ant-Man. I just thought like that could be the one that doesn't hit the stride. So I think that's also kind of why it's so fun to me. I went in there with zero expectations, and it blew me away. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. That was an excellent movie. Very surprised at how good it was. Just had its own feel, which was great. Just kind of set it apart from the other ones, but still felt like, yeah, this is definitely a good Marvel movie. So, good superhero movie even.
I agree. I'm really excited. Introducing the Wasp looks awesome. The villain seems to be Ghost, which, from as far as my knowledge goes, it looks like it might be a female Ghost too, which is already different from the comics, but looks like he's going to be, or she's going to be some sort of involved, but he is usually an Iron Man villain. So they're kind of taking, because Ant-Man doesn't really have the best rogue gallery, so I don't mind that, because Ghost is kind of a C-level villain, and kind of give it some shine, and rub off seems pretty cool. So I'm assuming they're going to kind of keep it in the same vein, kind of keep it like a heist kind of movie, which I really like that. It fit the comedy really well, and I love where they had like the Pez dispenser get grown and stuff like that. So it seems like they've really found their niche in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it just seems really, really good.
Yeah.
The next movie trailer that really caught our attention, obviously, since we're already on the Disney side of things, was the Solo, a Star Wars story. This just dropped as of today. This is just 2 days removed from the Super Bowl, but this was a Super Bowl commercial, and it gave us our first look at the Solo movie. And I don't know, Drewid, have you got a chance to see it yet?
Yeah, I got to look over it once. Didn't look into too much depth with it, but definitely looked really cool. I wasn't really expecting much from the movie, but seeing the trailer made me like, yeah, I definitely want to kind of give this a look. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things I think people, especially kind of the buzz I was hearing around Reddit and other kind of forums like that was kind of the Ant-Man syndrome. They kind of thought this would be the Star Wars miss, just because it's coming out in May and no one's seen anything, set pieces, pictures, trailer, nothing. So people are kind of worried about that. I think it looks really good. Obviously, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, as I know you are, Drewid.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't take much to impress me. Again, we grew up on the prequels and we loved them. So for some people that's hearsay or, heresy. So the fact that we think those are good movies are probably not the best judge of Star Wars per se, but I thought it looked awesome. I thought the Star Destroyer coming out of the clouds in the opening shot, I think looks possibly to be an iconic scene. I don't know the context of it, but it looked amazing.
Oh yeah. I mean, to bring back the original trilogy, we really liked those as when we were kids. I think looking back, I can see why Episode 1 was very badly received, and even Episodes 2 and 3, but, they were watchable. But, yeah, given how good the new movies are, I'm pretty excited for Solo, though, so should be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be in kind of the same vein as, Rogue One, where, people had, really low expectations going in, or, just didn't really quite know how it was going to go just because they're like spin-offs. And I think it's going to do really well. I'm really excited about it. I think it looks really fun. Donald Glover as Lando. I love everything about that, even if he has a small part. Don't care. Love Donald Glover, and I love Lando. So.
Now you bring up Rogue One, and that was probably my favorite Star Wars movie, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I just loved, like, the whole theme of it, and, you know, you didn't really have Jedi, and it was just still really good. Like, everybody goes to watch a Star Wars movie for Jedi and lightsabers, but this just had really good characters and development and plot going on.
Yeah, I agree on all fronts on that. It's one of those things that it's just that it's ironic that it's so good despite all that, but my favorite scene from it is the ignition of the lightsaber from Vader. Like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, we grew up in the time, you know, with us being, you know, 90s kids, you know, we didn't really get to... technology and movie looked so much better, you know, even for the prequel. So, like, when you went back, you didn't really get that menacing feel from Darth Vader, right? At least I didn't. I might be projecting on you, but... So, like, seeing that true menacing, like, oh my god, this dude is scary. Like, that made... It retroactively made the trilogy the original trilogy so much better for me.
Yeah.
And it elevated it, and I was just like, I never expected a spinoff to elevate, you know, movies I've already seen and already had fond memories of, and it just made everything about it so much better. So I agree with you. Rogue One might be my favorite as well. It is such a great movie. Gareth Edwards did a phenomenal job, and hopefully maybe Lucasfilms can find something else for him to do.
Yeah, I mean, maybe another spinoff one, but yeah, so... Definitely had a lot of good Star Wars movies in the last few years, and hoping Solo's another great one, and I don't see why it won't be, but yeah. So, what's our next?
Probably should move on a little bit, because I know we could probably do a 7-hour podcast just about Star Wars in general, but...
That's almost as long as all the movies.
Yeah, exactly. The other trailer that dropped for the Super Bowl was they did another Infinity War trailer, and just like with the other trailer, it really didn't reveal any plot, which I don't know did you see the Super Bowl version?
I have actually not watched that one, but I did watch like the previous ones.
Okay, well, it didn't add too much to it. Just a little, like I gave a different angle of like the Iron Spider suit for like Peter. It shows like Tony's new suit where it just kind of like metamorphosizes around him and stuff. So like kind of cool stuff like that. Like it doesn't even show Thanos until the very end and just does a face shot. So like it really doesn't reveal anything. It really just showed group shots of the groups. Oh, and I guess the other cool thing is you get to see the Wakandan shield that Cap uses, and it looks almost kind of like a giant like claw. Really cool looking, and it looks like it can extend and detract and stuff. So it just kind of gave some cool little pieces. I'm assuming they reveal that anyway, because I'm assuming those type of things are going to be revealed in the toy sets anyway. That's probably already coming out, like Legos and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it was a really safe trailer to release, and it didn't really show anything of importance. But it was also just really cool. It just showed like how awesome the movie's going to look special effects wise, and it just, of course, built the hype up more. Kind of the last thing is sadly the all father of the Marvel, Stan Lee, he had seems like a small little heart condition kind of flare up over the week, and he had a hospital stay. Luckily, it was pretty brief. He already got discharged and he's back home. But for somebody who's given, you know, everybody who's ever grown up in any sort of comic book, you know, just not even if you're just Marvel, but just comic books in general, he's gave so much to this pop culture and this phenomenon that we live in. I just think it was good to mention and hopefully give him some good wishes and prayers. So,
yeah, definitely not something we want to think about lately with all the celebrity deaths recently. You know, hopefully nothing serious comes of it. I mean, I'd love to see him live to be at least 100 or so, but, you know, he is getting old, but hopefully Stan the Man Lee can live a good long life. Well, a little longer than he already has, at least. So, what's next on our docket?
We would like to plug our other Lag Network shows. Alt and Drewid, I know you guys have a podcast of your own.
Yeah, we got the Lagcast going. We got the first episode out a couple days ago. It was recorded on, I believe, the 29th, but we just put it up a few days ago. Would have been like the 5th of February. We talk about kind of games, a couple anime things like the new Dragon Ball Super content and stuff. So give that a look if you're interested in that. Let's see. We have also got Drewid plays Dark Souls. It's me playing Dark Souls. I'm doing my playthrough on that. Alt is playing through some of Dissidia, and he's going to be putting up more content for that coming soon. And yeah, that's kind of what we got going on right now. So
hopefully in some future episodes we'll hopefully get Alt on here. He's kind of, you and him are kind of the grandfathers of the Lag Network. So it'd be nice to get him on here and get him some opinions on some other things.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have rotating guests and everything depending on who's available.
But make sure, guys, that we do have Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. We also have a Twitch channel and a Twitter. So on Facebook, we are League of Apparent Gamers. Please follow us. Twitter, we are at L uppercase, lowercase O, A Gamers. A and G are both uppercase. Please follow us. Comment questions you'd like us to answer, maybe. Criticisms. We'll take anything you got. On YouTube, we are just search League of Apparent Gamers, and that will be our channel. And then, of course, on Twitch, we are LAG, all capital, network, all one word, and the N on network is also capital. And that's Lag Network, guys. So please like, subscribe, favorite, comment. Literally, any feedback is good feedback. Whatever you got for us, we'll handle it. Yeah. So I appreciate it, guys.
Now, we don't have anything going yet on Twitch, but that's definitely in the works to do some kind of streaming, especially as like new games come out that we're interested in. So keep an eye on that. We'll hopefully get some stuff going on that soon. But the biggest stuff right now is on YouTube, but be sure to check out the Twitter and Facebook as well, and to kind of keep in contact with us. And as Breck over here said, give us some criticism, comments, things like that, because we appreciate any kind of feedback. We also have a Patreon page under League of Apparent Gamers. Any little bit helps if you want to help the channel out. All of it's going to go to the channel right now, at least. So we don't have any subscriber bonuses yet because we don't have any subscribers. So yeah, give this a look if you're interested in.
Also, some good comments on that would be what would be some realistic subscriber bonuses maybe you guys would be interested in.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Anything like that, we'd be open. We obviously we have some things we're meddling with once we get that up and running. But if you have suggestions, we're all for it.
Yeah. So if you want to see us try some crazy runs in some games we have, or do like little podcasts talking about a specific topic here and there as for subscribers only, then that's something we can try to do. But yeah, any feedback is appreciated, as we said. So what's next on our docket then?
We're going to go kind of just more in depth on kind of like what we've done in the last month. So kind of the format we're going to go here, guys, is we're going to do kind of a monthly review of like kind of everything that just kind of we either got into or whatever. And then we're going to segue into that, into kind of like things we're excited for in the upcoming months. So we're going to do our subjects on like TVs, movies, comics, anime, manga, anything that kind of we just in the last month or so just like we got into, we enjoyed, we have some comments about. So we're going to start with TV and movies. Drew, do you have any TV movies that kind of caught your eye in the last month that you've watched that you kind of want to discuss?
So the new Jumanji movie, that was pretty recent. Have you got a chance to see that yet?
No, I have not. I am surprised the legs on that movie, man. That thing came out to like minimum fanfare and didn't do so well, and then since then it's been number one like 3 weeks in a row.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, like it opened up at not number one, and since then it's been number one.
Wow, I wouldn't have expected that, but yeah, no, it was surprisingly very good. I was more excited for it because of the actors in it. It's got Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. It's got Kevin Hart, Jack Black. I don't remember the female's name.
Karen Gillian. She's Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy, and then she plays one of the companions of the Doctor in one of the seasons of Doctor Who.
Oh, wow.
Sure.
Okay.
So yeah, she's a pretty accomplished actress.
Yeah. But yeah, just like a really good lineup for a Jumanji remake. Didn't expect it to be very good, but it was actually very good. Did a really cool twist on the idea of getting sucked into an actual video game. Like with the original Jumanji with Robin Williams, you had it to where the game kind of came into the real world. This was them going into the game world. There's even a couple Easter eggs mentioning back to Alan, who his character was, and who was Robin Williams' character. Honestly, I kind of like it a bit more than the original. No offense to Robin Williams, may he rest in peace. But yeah, really good movie. So definitely give that a look if you guys have time.
I have a quick question, and hopefully this doesn't go into too much spoilers, and if so, we'll definitely put up a spoiler tag beforehand, so you might want to skip 30 seconds ahead if it gets a little spoilers here. But, Robin Williams, you said it was a remake. Is it a sequel or a remake, or kind of a little bit of both?
It's more of, it's in the same universe, and it's just later, so
okay, so is it the same world that Alan got sucked into? Like, you said the Easter eggs, like, is there, like, things that you can tell he actually, because he lived there for, what was it, like 25 years or 30 years or whatever it was, and
yeah. So without spoiling too much, I mean, it's an Easter egg. You'll see it. It's not a big deal. It's like basically this little house that he had made, and it's got like his name on it, like Alan Parrish, I believe it was. So it's got his name like carved into the wood on the house. Awesome. So it's like, hey, yeah, he lived here. And then they kind of mention like, oh yeah, I'm just living here. This was his home. He lived here for a while, I guess. But it basically takes place a little later in time, and then kind of has a little time jump there. But yeah, pretty cool. And
I definitely would love to see it in theaters. It seems like it'd be a really fun movie to see. It probably is going to be one of the ones that I won't see until it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD. But yeah, I loved Jumanji, the original one. I loved the aspect of it, and I always thought in the original movie, I always wanted to see the Jumanji world. So I love that they explore that in this. So that makes me very excited for it.
So yeah, let's see, what else have I watched? Oh yeah, there's an anime that came out on Netflix. I want to say about a month ago that I finished up recently. It's in the Fate series. It's called like Fate Apocrypha or something like that.
Okay.
Takes place in the Fate universe, kind of a spin-off of the original ones. Which the whole premise of the series is basically you have these mages that summon heroes from legend. So you have like King Arthur. I don't think he's in it, but Leonidas, Alexander the Great, Ku Lane, several other like heroes you would know by name. Jack the Ripper's even one that's in this series, and then Jeanne d'Arc. Basically,
not to interrupt you, but
yeah.
They also kind of like put their own little twist on it, right? Like they gender bent a couple, and if you don't know what that means, it means you switch the gender of popular historical or fictional characters. But they gender bent a couple of the characters, correct?
Yeah. So like the main character, she's not in this series, but in the other series, she Arthur, she's a female, obviously.
And that would be King Arthur, correct?
Yeah, King Arthur. She basically, the story behind it is, okay, originally she was actually a female, and she portrayed herself as a man to lead the country and like be the king they needed, something like that.
Okay, that's really cool.
This series has some references to her because there's like one of her knights. I don't remember the name of the knight that wants to like be king and take down King Arthur.
Lancelot.
Yes, Lancelot. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's Lancelot, who's also a female, but says that she's the son of King Arthur. It's kind of weird, but yeah, really good series. Just a lot of action, and it's basically just like a giant, like, cluster flub of all these powers and special effects and everything like that.
So super pretty, basically, and awesome effects.
Like
that's awesome.
Epic anime fight scenes if you're into that thing. But if you want to get into the Fate series, I believe it still is on Netflix. Fate Unlimited Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. Great series. Great entry into the series. I have not watched the original Fate Stay Night, but Unlimited Blade Works and Fate Zero are both great series to watch. And then going into the Apocrypha is really good as well. And hopefully the second part will come out soon.
Yeah, that's the only downfall to animes. Usually the good ones have 7 titles, and they're all longer than the last.
Yeah, not wrong.
A TV series that I've been watching that I've really been excited about was The Runaways on Hulu. And if you don't, the premise is it's based off of a comic book series by Brian K. Vaughan that came out in the early 2000s when they were doing this manga-inspired comic book series. Like Big Hero 6 is another like one that came out of that. So they had some pretty cool creativity that came out of this. But it's about these group of teenagers that basically find out that their parents are villains of some kind. In the comic, they're, of course, more supervillains. In the TV show, they're more realistic villains. To a sense. But it's really good. It takes a lot of teen drama elements that you would expect that you've seen over the years in teen shows. And really just like keeps it enough that it doesn't Dawson Creek you, or you get too much drama. Like, it gives you just enough Dawson's Creek, if you know what I mean. And it's just enough to keep you in there. The only critique I can maybe give the show is I wish the action scenes were just a little bit better. They're really choreographed, but there's some really cool special effects. The characters are really, you like them all. Even the villains, you like them. They're very fleshed out. They're very good. It's only 10 episodes on Hulu, I believe. It might be 12, but I think it's 10. It flows really well. It's a really good series. It changes enough from the comics that if you've read the comics, it brings something to the table you'll enjoy. But it keeps enough of adaptation to the comic that it doesn't make you mad. At least not for me. As a person I've read not all the run of Runaways, but I've run enough to know the first arc of it. And it's pretty faithful, but also they've changed just enough that I don't quite know what they'll do. And I like that. I know you haven't got a chance to watch it. I've been recommending it to you, and I know you've been busy. But I think it'd be kind of right up your alley, because I know you've liked the CW shows, and I feel like it does the drama even a little better than the CW shows.
Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one I want to give a look because I never really read The Runaway, so this might be a good way to get into it. But like the Flash and Archer, no, not Archer, sorry, the Flash and Arrow.
If only Archer was on Arrow.
Right. The Flash and Arrow series, like really good shows. Just there's a little too much drama sometimes, like very CW-esque. So like I'm hoping this one has a little less, like you're saying.
I shouldn't say it has less. It just feels appropriate because it's a cast of teenagers. They're not grown adults that are having teenager problems. So it feels a little bit, you know.
If that's the case, that'll work then.
Yeah, it's teenagers that are rebelling and trying to figure out who they are in all facets of life, like a normal teenager. So it doesn't feel like when you see your 30-year-old, you know, character in your CW show that's doing the same thing. Which is not a knock on the CW shows. We are both fans of those, by the way, but it's just critiques there.
So we were talking about Star Wars earlier. So related to Star Trek, there was a series called The Orville that came out a couple months back. This is by Seth MacFarlane. It's pretty much a clone of Star Trek, kind of in his own way. Surprisingly very, very good. Very good cast of characters, good plot elements, decent comedy overall. I know some would say it's better than like I do, or well, like it better than I do. We'll get into that. But yeah, what do you got to say about that?
I absolutely love The Orville. And this is coming from a guy who... And maybe that's why I can watch Star Trek, but I've never been a Trekkie. Or maybe that's not the right vernacular. Sorry, Star Trek fans. But I've never been obsessed with Star Trek like I was Star Wars. Now I do. There's been I did watch Next Generation quite a bit because they used to show it in reruns on Spike TV before wrestling, and I'm a huge wrestling mark, so I always watched wrestling as a kid. But I enjoyed that because there was, I got to see a lot of. I enjoyed the Next Generation cast. So there was a Star Trek show I liked before this. It'd definitely be Next Generation.
Yeah, Next Generation's really good. I used to watch that on Netflix a lot. Yeah.
So I enjoyed that one. Granted, I can't say I've watched enough of it to judge it as a series, but the episodes I've always seen, I always would I wouldn't turn the channel. I'd wait before wrestling came on. But I love his capturing of that because it makes me think of Next Generation, but with comedy.
Yeah, I mean, if you've watched The Next Generation, you can definitely tell Orville takes a lot from that. It's like Seth MacFarlane's obviously a Picard fan.
Yeah, granted, I've not seen the original Star Trek, so I definitely would agree with that. But Seth MacFarlane is, and I mean this in the best way possible, is the weakest part of the show. and I mean that as a positive because he does a phenomenal job in it. But you can obviously tell that he surrounded himself with a superior cast. And I like it. Because he's the captain, but because of that, he allows his crew and his cast to shine. Because even though it has this contrast of him being the captain and going through these life struggles and humanizing him, where he's not this invincible captain, he's a captain that, has to step back up, basically, get back on to the captain's chair to prove that he belongs. It really allows his cast to shine, and I love that. The comedy elements might be a little too much for some people sometimes, and I get that. And I think they really just were trying to find their balance. You can definitely tell that he definitely struggled with... I think he did a really good job on that, but he had some episodes that were very serious content, but he also tried to sprinkle some natural comedy in it, and sometimes it was kind of forced. But I felt like he did as good as a job as possible in that situation to fit his type of comedy in with a very serious Star Trek clone.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it definitely sets the stage for future seasons to be really good and grow, but like I had said with the comedy stuff, my biggest gripe was a lot of the comedy they use are things from modern, today, even though this is set centuries later, they quote things from this century that, I really don't think would translate very well 200 years from now. So it just kind of, it's a little off-putting for me. Yeah,
and I can definitely see that complaint. It's definitely have plenty of basis for that because he uses his knowledge. He's obviously a very intelligent man. He uses his knowledge of social situations and plugs it into the show. Well, obviously, he's not been alive in the future or in the past, so he only uses the last 30 years of pop culture as his references, and it can tell and it can show. Probably the best thing he can do, which I'm sure he's probably a little hesitant to that because I think this is definitely kind of his pet project, his baby. He probably doesn't want the writer room to take over, kind of like what happened to Family Guy, where he pretty much just went hands off of it and just kind of let them do their thing, and he just does the voice acting and creative control, and that's it. So I think he's very protective of that. But maybe a little bigger writer's room or something might help. I don't know. Or maybe even he'll just take the criticism and help span upon that. But I think even by towards the end of the series, he becomes a little self-aware of it. And there's a couple jokes, and I don't remember offhand, where it kind of makes you think like, oh, he kind of picked up on it a little bit. So there's hope. I loved it. I'm hoping the second season is just as good as the first. I hope they don't, since it's on Fox, I'm a little worried that they'll fall into that 20-plus episode show, especially with how good the ratings did. And I think that's a show that will definitely suffer with a 20-plus season episode, or, plus season. So I really like the 12-episode mark. Maybe 15, 16. But anything more than that, I think you're going to stretch him with where he'll basically have too many episodes for his writing.
Yeah. I mean, the show is very good. Like, it's a very good, like, just to pick up and watch show. Like, if you caught reruns out of it, you could just pick it up and watch it, because it's structured in a way that every episode is pretty independent. It's just like the old Star Trek. Like, okay, today they're going on this adventure and dealing with this thing, and they deal with that. And most of the time, I don't know if there's any double-parter episodes really. There's like references back to earlier things and stuff.
There might have been one double-parter, but I can't recall.
Yeah, but like a lot of it's just, okay, this is what's happening in this episode, this is how we deal with it, and by the end of the episode it's wrapped up. But it is like a 45-minute long show, so there's quite a bit of time for them to resolve everything. But yeah, definitely an amazing series to watch. It's on Hulu right now, so give it a look. I think it's 12 episodes, right?
12 episodes.
Yeah, so not too much content there. It's only season 1. This is the best time to get into it before they start adding more. Like, Game of Thrones has like 7 seasons now, and I've watched the first episode. But I've read the books, so I'm like kind of in the know. But yeah.
Well, fun little fact about the books here. I don't know how much we can take credits for this, but I read an article, you can't see it, but those air quotes, about a person who apparently was associated with his publisher, and they were close on the new book. Apparently, he got majority of the book done over a year ago, and he wanted to tweak some things, and he underestimated how much that would affect the plot of the story. So if you're big into the Song of Ice and Fire book series, there's hope. Hopefully it'll be released within the next year or so. But who knows? The man's going to write at his pace, and that's fine. But a quick segue into books, so to speak. I have some comics I've been reading the last few months. I just started reading Watchmen about 2-3 weeks ago. The reason being is because there's currently in the DC comic product, there is a Doomsday Clock event, which is basically, for whatever reason, the Watchmen characters universe is colliding with the DC main universe, and it takes place a year ahead of the current DC product. So we don't exactly know why it's happening, and that's kind of it's going to be a 12-issue event, and they've had some delays announced and things like that, so it's going to take them about a year and a half to get it all out. But so far from the early reviews, I've kept myself spoiler free. I've heard nothing but great reviews, and that's coming from Marvel fans along with DC fans. So that's usually a really good sign when the fanboys of either product is praising it. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that. But first I wanted to read the Watchmen book. And I know you've read it, Drewid, several years ago. So I know your memory might be a little foggy. But I've only read about 3/4 of it. And I've enjoyed it very, very much. But I've not finished it.
Yeah, it's one I probably need to give a look back at. I read it probably 8 or 9 years ago when I was in high school. So, wow, I feel old. Anyway, yeah, it's a pretty good book. It's definitely, like, it was really, really hyped up for the time period it came out in, because that was so different. But if you read it now, you'll probably think, like, oh, I don't really get what the hype is about. I mean, it's a good comic, but I don't see, like, why this was so, like, new and amazing. But the thing is, like, it has a lot of darker plot elements that you just didn't see in comics at the time, especially not, like, mainstream ones.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I will kind of disagree with a little bit is I feel like it holds up really well. I think it is, like, everything I've read it's really kind of blown me away. Like, I do see why it was such a big deal, because through reading that, and granted I have read a little bit more superhero comics and things like that over, our lives, but I can definitely see how it changed everything. Like, I can see how everybody pulled from that, and they're like, we want to be Watchmen-esque. So, like, it's kind of nice for me to read. Like, I didn't realize it, but, like, reading, like, oh, this is where this is all coming from. Like, this is where these elements have come from. And I can see that other writers have tried to capture this element that's in Watchmen. That's just kind of this Alan Moore Mystique-esque, you know, put superheroes, flip the genre on its head. Let's show what it'd be like realistically. Let's put in these dark mysteries. Let's put in these murder plots. Let's show real people being superheroes. And if these real people are superheroes, they're going to be not really good people. Like, they're going to be people with some major issues, because normal people don't dress up in tights and go fight people.
Yeah. No, and I can see how your perspective would be like that, because really, we got into comics probably, like, really hardcore, like 6 or 7 years ago, I would say.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
And I read it before that, so it was like, I didn't really have a lot of that, like, background knowledge on, like, well, this is how comics are these days and everything. I like, watched, like, cartoons for, like, Spider-Man and, like,
like the
Super Friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the 90s X-Men and
yeah.
Justice League Unlimited, Batman animated series,
And, the Justice League, And I had never really watched or read the stuff, but, like, reading Watchmen at the time, I was like, well, yeah, it's just, like, it's kind of neat. I don't really get it. But, like, if I gave it a look again, I'd probably appreciate it more because of all the comics I've read now.
And I got it in a really nice softcover bound, like, omnibus type book. And it definitely helps with the enjoyment of that. And it has that, like, still, even though it's, like, newer print, it's got that still kind of pulpy smell feel to it. So, like, I really enjoy it. I got it pretty cheap. So definitely when I get done with it, I'll definitely let you have it so you can reread it.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So, I know you had a comic you want to discuss, so...
Yeah, so the new Darth Vader comic, or just called Vader right now, was one that came out. I think we're on issue 9 or 10, right? Something like that. Maybe not that high, but
no, I think you're right. I think it's almost been out for a year. So I think like maybe April, May will be a year of it. So yeah, we're getting close.
Okay, yeah. So its comics been running for just about a year now. It's basically about Vader. Picks up immediately after he gets revived by Sidious, and goes about his business and starts to do things for the Emperor. You see little pieces coming together and, like, you know, setting up for, like, stuff that happens in the original movies, and him taking care of, like, older Jedi still to wipe them out. And really cool so far. And it's like, he just looks so good on, like, on a really good art style in the comics. So definitely one worth checking out. I think the first trade's out now already, right?
Yep. I have a spending problem when it comes to trade paperbacks and comic books.
Sure do.
Yeah. We all have our vices. I don't want to hear it from you people. But yeah, I got the first trade of it. Absolutely love it. Like you said, it is phenomenal. The first Vader series that came out in 2015 by Kerry Gillian was very good. It took place, if I'm not mistaken, it takes place after New Hope.
Yeah, it's in between 4 and 5.
Yeah, right. And that was also a really good series. I've not finished that run. I've read up until, I think, the first annual. So I think the first 12 issues. I think it's got like 25 or 26 issues. So did you read all that? I know you've read a lot of it.
I read like the first probably 2 trades worth. I don't think I finished it though.
Yeah.
No.
So I think you might be a little further than me.
Yeah.
But it was also very good. It introduced a lot of original characters in that, which was very nice. Which, granted, I mean, the new Vader series has done that as well. And also expands upon some characters that were introduced in the Rebels TV show. The first villains of Rebels, you meet the Inquisitors. And as spoilers, you find out at the end of Season 1 that there's Inquisitors, not Inquisitor. And we get to meet all of them in this series. And we get to watch Vader find out about them and how he reacts to that, which was really cool. And then also train them in his way, which is very, very Vader-like.
Yeah, I still need to catch Rebels. Is it streaming anywhere that you know of, or
not that I know of? I think they might have originally had a Netflix deal in place, but that fell through ever since they announced their Disney streaming property.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's going to come out maybe beginning of next year or in this calendar year.
Yeah, might have to look at buying on Amazon or something because it definitely looks really cool.
I know you can get the first few seasons for which is, I mean, granted we're cheap.
I think we're on Season 3 of it, but
yeah, I think the second half is, well, hell, they might be on Season 4.
Oh, well.
I know they have one more season. I think they're going to have one more season and they're done.
Okay.
And then they're going to be a new property after that. But I do know that they run for about $20-$25 on Amazon each season. That's on Blu-ray.
Terrible. Yeah.
So.
But no, because like the Clone Wars one, the animated one, was really, really good, especially in the later seasons. So I definitely want to catch Rebels to like kind of see where stuff picks up. I know there's a Darth Maul plot that continues, right?
Yes, there is. I will temper your expectations a little bit on Rebels. It is not Clone Wars. I will just throw that out there right away. It is not the mature Clone Wars. It is definitely Disney.
Oh, okay.
Now I don't mean that as necessarily but it's just you have kind of it's just not as intense as Clone Wars, but you're also so it's especially the first season. But by the end of the first season, they get in some really cool nitty gritty lore stuff of the Star Wars universe, and it's worth it. But the first 10 episodes of Rebels, and I've only seen the first season, so but the first 10 or so episodes, it's very Inquisitor shows up, the Rebels group barely escape. They kind of have a teenager type show adventure. It's very much shown that it's supposed to be for that 12 to 15 audience.
Right.
And Clone Wars was very much made for everybody, but mostly it felt like adults. It was very mature themes.
I mean, it kind of brought in the kid audience with Ahsoka, but it had all the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why Ahsoka was there, I felt like. But again, I grew to love Ahsoka, but just because of what she brought out in Anakin, which made me actually like Anakin. So,
yeah. He's definitely
again, Star Wars is creeping in
everywhere.
Yeah, we could probably call this our Star Wars podcast before it's all said and done. But do you have any other comics that you've read recently that you want to... I know you read Injustice 2. You've been enjoying that.
Yeah, so recently I binged through Injustice Years 2 through 5, and then I caught up on Injustice 2. Now, I've not played the Injustice video games, but holy cow, these are really good comics. Just a very dark look at the DC universe, and it's not horribly gory or gruesome and everything. Yeah, people die, but it's very much what if everything that could go badly starts to go bad, and picks just kind of keeps going from there. You have periods where going into Injustice 2, they're trying to rebuild. Superman's in jail. I'm not spoiling too much because it's been out for a while, so bear with me. But Superman's in jail.
And also, you can always skip ahead.
Yeah. You can honestly jump ahead in it too. You could pick up on Injustice 2, but they're all really good content. A lot of it does take place from Harley Quinn's perspective in certain situations, which isn't bad. Really fleshes her out as a character. Kind of her transitioning away from Joker. But without spoiling too much for Injustice, it basically starts off with Joker and Harley have implanted a bomb in Lois Lane's heart and then poisoned Superman with the Scarecrow gas, right? A modified...
Mixed that with a certain kryptonite, I believe.
Yeah, some kind of kryptonite. So
yeah.
He sees Lois as Doomsday and rips her up into space, and she dies.
And the thing that should also be noted, he doesn't rip her up into space to kill her. He just it's Doomsday, and if you don't know who Doomsday is, just think of him as Superman level villain brokenness to combat Superman. So he's thinking, he's not trying to kill even in this situation. He just knows that to knock out Doomsday, he's got to do something drastic.
Yeah, and get him away from the population and everything.
Right. Well, then he finds out that it's his very human wife, Lois.
Yeah, and who is also pregnant with their child. And yeah, it just kind of starts to set Superman over the edge. You can see him slowly transform, and then he kills Joker.
Yes, and that is the opening to Injustice 1. So again, this is not spoiler. Injustice 1 came out in 2010 or 11, so...
It's been a while.
Yeah, so I feel like spoilers have a limitation of 2 years, so you're not getting spoiled here.
You're over the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if we spoiled it, but deal with it.
Yeah. But it does a great job, and this is another... I haven't read Injustice 2 comic, but I've read... I've played Injustice 1, I've played Injustice 2, but I haven't beat Injustice 2, so I don't know the entire plot of it. But I have read from Injustice Year 1 to Injustice Ground Zero. So I got a lot of the universe under my belt. And I will say that you can definitely tell Tom Taylor's taken a lot of inspiration from, like I mentioned earlier, Watchmen and things.
Oh yeah.
Or Kingdom Come even, which is another fantastic graphic novel you guys should read, a DC property. So, and he's put his own spin on it, and it is, like you said, it is grounded, it is very dark, but it's also just so good, and then there are moments that you think it's just he shows us these characters have their heroic moments, and it makes you realize why you love superhero comics. It is one of the best comics out there. I agree with Drewid full-heartedly right now from the big two. You should definitely pick it up. You should definitely go to Tom Taylor on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever. Give him props. He's been working on this now for almost 7 years. The man deserves his props.
Yeah, and there's a lot of issues to it, so like if you get into it, there's plenty of content there to read, so you're not gonna catch up anytime soon.
Yeah, it'll keep you busy. I think
it took me like 3 or 4 weeks to read through everything.
Yeah,
at a pretty decent pace.
And I think he's got at least, I think he's on issue maybe 40 plus now on Injustice 2.
Yeah, 40, almost 50 now.
So I mean, the man is cranking them out. So it's good stuff. You guys should check it out. I can't say any more nice things about it. It is just phenomenal.
So we're gonna wrap up comics then, and what's next on the docket?
Yeah, so let's wrap up comics. We'll go into kind of like what we're looking forward to in the coming months. You know, these are kind of things that we're hoping that eventually be on what we read or what we watched to be reviewed. For me, and I think this is an obvious one, I think we can easily get some mileage out of this guy, but Black Panther. Holy crap, man. If this movie is even 1/10 as good as those trailers have been, it might be my favorite Marvel movie.
It's looking to be really interesting. I'm definitely excited.
I will say I have never, like, I've always known of Black Panther as soon as I've focused on Marvel, which you'll find out over time that we both tend to lean more Marvel, but we are not fanboys by any stretch of the imagination. We give our DC their proper props.
Oh yeah.
Hence the Action Cousins podcast moniker, by the way. But Black Panther's always just kind of been a side, B tier, Marvel guy. He always looked really cool, and I always liked the fact that he was, had this secret hidden nation and stuff like that. But I just never really got into him. But this right here has gotten me so into him. The cast looks phenomenal. Chad Boswick, who plays T'Challa, phenomenal actor. I mean, he has made me care about a B-tier superhero, which is pretty much just like the MCU moniker at this point. Care about our side characters that no one else does.
Pretty much, yeah.
But, and then they got Michael B. Jordan, who I'm a huge fan of. He was in Creed. He played Apollo Creed. Really phenomenal actor. He's in Fruitvale Station. He was in that terrible remake of Fantastic Four, but he was the one bright spot because he was a great Johnny Storm.
Oh yeah, I never watched that.
I'm so sorry for the Fantastic Four. They just can't get it right. But yeah, I rarely ever say this, but you do not need to see it unless you just want to see it.
I have no plans to watch it. I didn't even care for the original ones that much.
Yeah, sidetrack here. Sorry for the side tangent here, guys, but it makes me so disappointed in it because the guy they casted as Doom is phenomenal. Miles Teller, who plays Reed Richards, phenomenal. Michael B. Jordan, who plays... the cast is just amazing. They want to do a young Fantastic Four. They nailed it out of the park with this cast. They had everything to succeed, and then they just gave them crap. They were like, hey, guys, I have a college roommate who wrote a screenplay. How about you act it out, my $1 million actors... on this screen. It is just so bad. And it's just the whole time you're watching it, you're just watching these actors trying to turn, chicken crap into chicken salad. And you're just but there's too much crap and not enough chicken, so there's no hope. And it's just terrible. I would be completely fine with them just being okay, scrap all that. You guys are still our cast, and let's give you a real cast. None of that happened, Mirage, and redo it. So,
if we're going to talk about a bad Marvel movie, let's talk about a good one. How about that Thor movie?
Thor Ragnarok was fantastic.
Right?
I will say the one complaint I've seen from people is they say it's too much comedy. I disagree completely.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was a good balance.
I agree. A lot of people say they don't want comedy in the Thor movies. That's not Thor. I disagree completely. I think Thor should be comedy. I think he is a god who views things beneath him, and he's boastful, and he's the god of thunder.
He obviously doesn't take things super seriously.
Exactly.
That's why certain problems happen. So it's okay if there's a little lighthearted moments and just him kind of joking and jabbering. It just works. It's really well done.
The other thing I've seen people say is it's a better Guardians 2 than Guardians 2, which I don't know how I feel about that because I loved Guardians 2, but I didn't necessarily like it as much as 1, so I think people are expecting to get blown away by that. But I love Thor Ragnarok. It's easily the best one in the trilogy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The only one I like the first one for what it was for an entry into the series, but Ragnarok blows everything away. Dark World I think is probably my least favorite MCU movie. which is a shame because, again, I feel like Hemsworth and Hiddleston act their asses off in that movie. But they just... Oh, and they waste Mad Mikkelsen in a terrible role because Malekith was terrible. They, instead of making him be what he is in the comics, which is, I think the problem was he was too close to Loki and they didn't want to do that, but instead of making him this conniving, magic-using dark elf that, like, it's always gotta... He's playing 4D chess while you're playing checkers, you know what I mean? And that's how he because, you know, Thor could just squash him like a bug. Like, that's how they fight. And, which is kind of how a lot of his villains fight. You either have somebody who's as tough as him, or you got somebody who's a lot smarter than him, which is kind of the trope. But instead, they turn him into generic alien dark elf bad guys. And it's sad when Curse, his muscle has more personality than him. So I was very disappointed in that. But the movie itself was a solid action flick. It just wasn't. It was just okay. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok, fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. If you haven't watched it already, watch it. If you haven't watched any other Thor movie, watch it.
I agree. I really hope that we get a Thor 4. They don't kill him off, and the 2 parts of Infinity War. I'm really hoping Chris Hemsworth, is when I've heard in interviews, he still wants to play Thor, but that could just be him politicking. I don't know. I'm really hoping we get more Thor movies.
Yeah, but for now at least, Black Panther and Avengers hype.
Yes, for sure. And I know I just showed you this trailer, but it's really hyped me for this comic, which is the Boom Studios Power Rangers, the Shattered Grid event. I haven't read any of these comics yet, but I did buy the year 1 hardcover, which is way more money than anybody should ever spend on a comic book. I'm telling you that right now, but God, is it beautiful. And I'm super excited. It's pretty much this event is long story short, this isn't spoilers, is basically there's a evil Tommy from an alternate universe where he never turns good. So when Rita turns him into the evil Green Ranger, he stays the evil Green Ranger. He eventually discovers the White Ranger powers and combines them and becomes Lord Drakon, who is this so cool villain Power Ranger, like mix up between the white and green suit. Phenomenal. And he takes over the world. He kills all the Power Rangers. He kills Rita. He takes over and establishes his empire. Well, eventually he has nothing left to conquer. So, of course, what does any villain do? They come over to the main universe where the regular Power Rangers are. And in the timeline, we're still in Green Ranger Tommy. And he's kind of slowly but surely transitioning to the leader of the group. And we're in that kind of time period if you've ever seen Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So, really good. There's 2 series and a mini-series so far in the Boom Studios Power Rangers universe. There's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which is the main series. It's been going on for about 2 years now. And then that comes out, the Shattered Grid event comes out in March. And then there's the Go-Go Power Rangers series, which is the newer series. It's been out for about a year. And so the Mighty Morphin, I'm sorry guys, Mighty Morphin takes place right when Tommy joins. And Go-Go Power Rangers starts from the beginning. And then there's a mini-series about Kimberly, which is really good as well. I've actually read the mini-series about Kimberly. That's actually a really good series. I think it's got 4 or 6 issues altogether. But, but I'm really excited for that. Couple other notes, just comic book things I'm excited for. Captain America 700th issue. They've gone back to the original numbering. It's coming out soon. I don't know the exact date. It might not be until like May, but I know they're getting close. And then also, of course, Action Comics 1000th issue,
which is insane to think about. Like, you know, we've read manga before that have hit 1,000 chapters, which is still a huge number, but for like an American comic that's usually monthly or more, to hit 1,000 isn't just absolutely insane. And of course, it's the original one. It's Superman, Action Comics.
And this is a series that's been axed and brought back multiple times, and it's still survived the test of time. And it's been anything from bi-monthly to monthly to, you know, and it's not like the mangas that can be weekly like the Shonen Jump stuff. So it's like, it's really impressive that it got to 1,000.
And just, it's crazy. Just think about how many writers and artists have touched this series over the last, 80 years?
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, like some...
Because I think it came out in the 30s, so yeah, 80 years.
Something like that, yeah. Like, just insane. So, Might have to buy that just on principle.
I will say there will be this is steep for a single issue, but once you realize everything that's in it, I will say I think it justifies the price. There will be a single issue that's $9.99, which includes the issue 1,000 plus a bunch of short stories done by a bunch of creative teams from DC, a lot of popular writers and artists. It will also have an original story from one of the original writers from I think he was in the 40s, and the 40s run of Superman. So we're talking Golden Age Superman unpublished story. Phenomenal. And then there's also going to be a hardcover one, and I think that one is it's considered, they're calling it the companion issue. And it's going to have other one-shots from other creative teams, and then an additional unpublished story from the same author.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that one also, I believe, is $9.99.
Wow, okay. So they're just going all in for this one. But
they should. It's literally the god of superheroes. So he deserves the praise he gets. And then the last thing on our kind of, for me at least, what I'm excited for is the Avengers No Surrender crossover. Marvel, this has already started. When this is getting recorded, this is about halfway through the crossover. But they're taking Champions and all their Avengers comics, and they're putting them into one event. And the basic premise is there's a founding member of the Avengers team that everybody forgot. And we figure out why. And it's going to eventually, the consequences of this series, besides what we don't know, but the one thing we know for certain is it's going to take all the Avengers books and make one Avenger book. So we're going to go from 3 to 1. And then Champions is going to get re-released as Champions. So, instead of having 4 books that are Avengers teams, they'll go down to 2, which I love. I like being streamlined. I like knowing that I don't have to get 7 Avengers books to try to find out what's the main Avengers story. So I'm really looking forward to this to be collected. I'd like to get it into a nice trade or hardcover and really read into it and then kind of start fresh with the new Avengers series. But everything I've heard early praise about it is it's really good. Some of the best stuff Marvel's done in the last year or so, which is sadly for them hasn't been the best. So I'm really hoping this kind of kicks it up in the gear and they can kind of get up to where DC's been for the last couple of years. So on that, we are kind of going to wrap up this first episode of our pop culture of the Action Cousins podcast. Again, we have our sister channels with Art and Drewid doing their podcast, which is
Lagcast.
We also have Let's Plays from Alt, which I'm not. Is he just throwing it under the League of Parent Gamers tag?
It's called Control Alt Lag, something like that.
I love it. And then also Drewid, of course. Again, one more time about your Let's Play.
Yeah, so it's under Drewid Plays right now. We're doing a Dark Souls one. There's also a Darkest Dungeon video, kind of in the middle of the game, fighting a boss, just like a preview of the game for anybody that hasn't heard of it or was wanting to see some gameplay on it. So give that a look if you're curious. Solid game, a little grindy at times, but what RPG isn't? Yeah, so.
And this is coming from a guy who I've played Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. I've played all of them, but I've never been able to finish them. It's just not my cup of tea. I love watching Let's Plays on these. And I can say here, I have honestly watched probably close to 30 hours of Dark Souls just watching Drewid. I love watching the game. I think it's one of the games that translate really well to Let's Plays. It's one of the few games that doesn't make me think damn, I really just want to play this. It's just very fun to watch, especially with somebody who has got some skills, which I have none of. And it's just an amazing content. Please check it out. I've watched a little bit of the first and second episode, and it's looking great. So he seems to be having a lot of fun with it, and yeah. I'm looking forward to more content.
I'd have to have you as a guest on one of the episodes. Right now, everything's recorded, so we're basically just kind of dubbing over it. But prepping up for the remaster when that comes out in May, I believe. So might have to try to do hey, you can be on there as commentary while I'm playing or whatever it may be.
I would love to do it.
Plenty of stuff I want to do with the remaster when that comes out. So.
And if you guys would like to see that, let us know too. Because if not, if you're getting tired of me and sick of my voice, that's understandable as well. Other things, guys, don't forget, we do have our Facebook, League of Apparent Gamers. Please follow us. At Twitter, we are LOA, L and A are capital, Gamers, all one word.
You don't need to say that, just say LOA.
And G is also capitalized. On YouTube, just search League of Apparent Gamers. And Twitch, like we said it earlier, we don't have anything up, but we hope to have some stuff up here in the next few months. It is Lag Network. Please like, subscribe, comment, favorite, whatever you would like to do. All comment, any sort of feedback is welcome. Criticism, positive, whatever, we'll accept it. Eventually, we might have some Twitter handles and stuff like that with just our individual names with our lag on our taglines. If you guys would like to see something like that, let us know. As of right now, we're just going to keep it all in under one thing to keep it streamlined.
Yeah.
So it's just easier to sort what you guys want to hear from us.
Yeah. So for now, at least we're under the LOA Gamers, but we read every comment, every tweet we get. So if you want to give us some feedback in some way, we'll see it in one channel or another. So yeah, and then we got the Patreon as well. Like we kind of mentioned earlier, any little bit you want to give will help the channel out. It's all going towards the channel right now. Make it better, potentially get us new equipment, be able to do like better things for it, better quality, shows, maybe get some better editing tools, that sort of thing. So yeah, plenty in the docket. Yeah.
Yep. And like we mentioned earlier, if you guys think of anything for eventually, once we hopefully get some donations, if you guys want something kind of in the realm of realistic would be for Patreon supporters, let us know as well. Well, guys, that's going to be it for us today at Action Cousins Podcast. Again, we are your host,
Drewid
and Breck, and we will see you next time, and make sure not to fix that lag, guys.